The NCAA says it's going to appeal a federal court ruling that came out Friday to allow Division I football and basketball players to be paid for the use of their names and images. It's a very dramatic decision here. The appeal comes after a court ruling in favor of a group of plaintiffs led by former UCLA basketball star Ed O'Bannon. How could it change the economic model of the NCAA? Eugene Lee is the president and CEO of NFL Representation Agency, ETL and Associates. When you heard the ruling by that judge saying, yes, players should get paid, what did you think?
I thought it was about time. I thought that it's a question of fairness, a question of equity. These players do receive scholarships, they receive a free education, a free college degree, but they're generating billions of dollars in revenue each year for their schools, and they're not receiving 1 cent. So I think it was about time.
Well, the NCAA doesn't think it's about time. They're going to fight it. They're going to appeal it. They're furious about it. Let's talk specifically about what would happen if it holds. They would have to pay players what? It's all very weird. $5,000, but depending on what school and what position you play, correct?
Judge Wilkin requires each school under her ruling to create a trust fund for each player, which would be funded annually. Now, the magic number is $5,000.
Okay.
There needs to be clarification. In her injunction, she set $5,000 as the ceiling. In the ruling itself, she set $5,000 as the floor. Now, if it's the floor, you could potentially see large schools from large revenue-producing programs outbid smaller schools, offering huge payouts to these players. So there definitely needs to be some clarification.
Well, there better be. Now, that wouldn't be such a great thing because then Ohio State can crush Ohio U or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely. The competitive balance, that was the reason she used the $5,000 figure. It was to allay the concerns the NCAA had about disrupting competitive balance, having these large schools like Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, outbid smaller schools.
You primarily represent NFL players, National Football League players. What was their thought? Have you talked to some of these guys?
I have, and they all agree that it was it was the right decision to make. I mean, you have kids go through school, they receive the scholarship, but there's a cost of attendance beyond the scholarship, going out on weekends, being able to see a movie, going out for a meal. They're not able to do that. A lot of these kids can't do that, and this will address it. Now, the other point to remember is that under her ruling, these players will not receive these proceeds until after they're done playing. Now, that will diminish some of the value to these players while they're in school.
There's so much money in college ball. It's unbelievable. A lot of these schools have deals with Nike or Adidas. There's so much coin involved. At some point, you do wonder, shouldn't the kids get a take of it? But there's also something, Eugene, that's a little unseemly about it, that you're paying college students who are getting a free educational ride anyway.
They are getting a free educational ride. I think a lot of these kids believe that they're generating so much money for these schools, and they're not seeing 1 cent. They just want to be able to live college as a normal student. Due to the demands of their sport, the travel, practice schedule, in addition to their classes, they can't find part-time work.
Right now it's basketball and football. Could it eventually spill over into other sports?
I think so, absolutely. Now, I think the concern would be, under this ruling, that you'll have non-revenue producing sports such as swimming, golf, volleyball, be cut by athletic programs that are going to allocate funds away from these sports to fund these large revenue-producing sports.
Unintended consequences.
Exactly.
We need to worry about that too. Eugene, we'll be following the story. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Eugene Lee. David?